Have you ever looked at a man and thought, why does he hold back even when I give him everything? You show affection, loyalty, patience, yet he still seems distant, like there's an invisible wall between you and his true heart. You see, most men don't consciously choose to be cold. They aren't born emotionally unavailable. What actually happens is that they only open up, truly open up, when something inside them gets triggered, not by beauty, not by words, but by three invisible triggers that reach deep into his instincts, his fears, and his sense of safety. And here's the truth that few people tell you. A man can love you, miss you, and even imagine a life with you. But if these three emotional triggers aren't activated, he'll keep part of himself locked away. He'll be physically present, but emotionally absent. You'll feel that strange distance, the one that makes you question if he really cares or if you're just another chapter in his story. This is why so many women feel exhausted in love. They give, they try, they adapt, but nothing seems to break through his armor. Because love alone doesn't make a man stay. It's these three hidden mechanisms that make his heart recognize you as home. Imagine this for a second. A man who stops overthinking, stops pulling away, and finally lets you see every side of him, not just the version he shows to the world. That level of openness only happens when you touch what his logic can't control, when you awaken the part of him that feels safe enough to surrender. But here's where most women make an innocent mistake. They think emotional connection means constant reassurance. They believe they need to prove their love, to make him feel wanted, to stay close so he won't drift away. But that approach often backfires, because to a man's mind, too much pursuit feels like pressure, too much care feels like control, and that's when his instinct kicks in, to pull back, to protect himself, to regain the feeling of independence he secretly craves. So instead of moving closer, he starts to move away. Not because he doesn't care, but because the balance of emotional energy has shifted. He no longer feels the natural magnetism that makes him choose you without resistance. If you've ever asked yourself, why do men chase one woman and ignore another? Or, why does he open up to someone else but shut down with me? The answer lies in what I'm about to explain. There are three invisible emotional triggers that make a man lower his guard, trust your presence, and finally, feel that being with you is not a threat to his freedom, but the safest decision he could ever make. These triggers are not manipulative. They don't require you to change who you are or play games. In fact, they only work when they come from authenticity, from a deep understanding of what men emotionally respond to, even when they can't explain it themselves. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly why some women make men commit without even asking, while others, no matter how much they give, are left waiting, wondering, and hurting. Because when you learn how to speak to a man's hidden instincts, everything changes. He starts to see you not as a fleeting desire, but as his emotional anchor. He stops fighting his feelings. He stops hesitating. He simply knows you are the woman he can finally let in. There's a woman I once spoke with. Let's call her Elena. She was strong, independent, full of life, the kind of woman who didn't need anyone to feel complete. But when she loved deeply. She met Daniel at a time when she wasn't even looking for anything serious. It started with laughter, messages that turned into late-night talks, and that beautiful feeling that something genuine was growing. For a while, everything flowed effortlessly. He seemed captivated, attentive, curious, even vulnerable. He told her things he had never shared with anyone before. But after a few months, something began to shift. Daniel didn't vanish, but he wasn't there either. His messages became shorter. The warm energy he once had started fading. He still said he cared, but Elena could feel it. Something had closed inside him, that invisible wall again. She did what most women naturally do. She tried harder. She texted more often. She asked if something was wrong. She tried to show more affection, thinking maybe he needed reassurance. But the more she gave, the quieter he became. The more she tried to get close, the more he drifted away. One night, she couldn't take the silence anymore. She called him, her voice trembling as she asked, "Did I do something wrong?" He sighed and said, "No, it's not you. I just need some space." That sentence hit her like a punch. Because how could someone who once looked at her like she was everything suddenly need distance? Days turned into weeks. The silence grew heavier. She replayed every conversation in her head, wondering what she missed. She thought about the way he smiled when he looked at her, the way his tone softened when he said her name. And she couldn't understand how something so real could fade so quickly, until one day she stopped chasing. Not out of pride, but out of exhaustion. She let the silence exist without trying to fill it. And something strange happened. Daniel came back. He started messaging her again, slowly at first, then more frequently. He wanted to see her. He said he missed her. But this time, Elena noticed something different. His tone wasn't defensive. His eyes held more peace. He wasn't pulling away anymore. And that's when she realized it wasn't about being the perfect woman. It wasn't about doing more or giving more. It was about understanding how men fall. When she stopped chasing, something inside him felt safe again. The dynamic shifted. He no longer felt like he was being pulled. He felt like he was choosing. That's when she unknowingly triggered one of those invisible emotional switches inside him. This experience opened her eyes. She began to see patterns, not just in Daniel, but in almost every man she had known. She noticed that when women try to connect through logic, explaining, reasoning, insisting, men tend to retreat. But when a woman connects through emotional resonance, silence, calm, mystery, self-assurance, men lean in. Because here's the paradox most women don't realize. Men crave deep connection, but they fear it at the same time. They fear losing their independence, their sense of control, their identity. So the moment they feel absorbed by a relationship, they pull back to breathe, to remind themselves that they still belong to themselves. But if a woman understands that pattern and doesn't panic when it happens, she becomes different from all the others. She becomes the woman he can open up to, because she represents safety, not pressure. Elena's story isn't unique. It's the silent story of millions of women who've loved men that seemed emotionally unavailable. And it's the same story that reveals the truth. A man's heart doesn't open through force. It opens through feeling understood, respected, and emotionally balanced. When that happens, something changes inside him. He begins to lower his guard. He stops seeing love as a threat to his freedom. And that's when he can finally surrender, not out of weakness, but because he feels safe enough to do so. There's a reason why love can feel so confusing when it comes to men. You can have chemistry, laughter, memories, and even vulnerability, and still feel like something's missing. That missing piece is what these 3 invisible triggers unlock. They don't control a man, they awaken him. The first invisible trigger is emotional safety. It may sound simple, but to a man, emotional safety is not about comfort. It's about freedom. A man will only give his heart to a woman who doesn't make him feel trapped. When he feels judged, criticized, or constantly questioned, his instincts start whispering, "I'm losing myself." That fear makes him retreat. But when he's around a woman who can express her feelings calmly, without trying to control his reactions, something inside him relaxes. He starts to see her not as someone who might hurt him, but as someone who understands him. She doesn't demand his emotions. She invites them. She doesn't need to be loud to be felt. Her peace speaks louder than her words. And the truth is, men crave that kind of peace more than they crave beauty, because peace is rare. When a man feels emotionally safe, he naturally starts to open up. He tells her things he never said before. He trusts her presence even in silence. He doesn't fear being misunderstood. And that's when something powerful happens. He begins to bond. Not out of guilt, not out of need, but out of genuine emotional connection. He feels that he can be both strong and soft in her presence. And that's when his heart starts to surrender. The second invisible trigger is respect-based attraction. Men are not driven by words alone. They're driven by how a woman's energy makes them feel about themselves. When a man feels respected, he sees himself reflected in her eyes as the man he wants to be. If she constantly corrects him, doubts him, or leads the relationship with control, his inner masculine instinct shuts down. He feels emasculated, and love starts to feel like a cage. But when a woman looks at him with quiet admiration, not because she's pretending, but because she genuinely values his effort, his courage, his way of showing up, it ignites something ancient inside him. He wants to earn her. He wants to protect her, provide for her, and make her proud. Not because she demands it, but because she inspires it. Respect-based attraction doesn't mean submission. It's not about giving up your power. It's about knowing how to stand in it gracefully. It's the kind of respect that comes from knowing who you are, what you deserve, and what you won't tolerate, while still speaking with warmth. A woman who carries that balance between softness and boundaries awakens a man's natural desire to give his best. Because deep down, men are not afraid of strong women. They are afraid of women who make them feel unnecessary. And when a woman makes a man feel that his presence matters, that she sees his efforts, that she appreciates his masculine energy, she becomes unforgettable. He doesn't just love her, he admires her. And admiration, for a man, is the doorway to commitment. The third invisible trigger is emotional polarity. It's the unspoken dynamic that keeps the spark alive, the dance between his masculine energy and her feminine presence. When a woman leans too much into masculine energy, overanalyzing, leading, fixing, she unknowingly mirrors him instead of complimenting him. The relationship starts to feel like competition instead of connection. But when she stands rooted in her feminine essence, calm, intuitive, emotionally expressive, she creates a contrast that pulls him closer. He feels drawn to her warmth, her unpredictability, her ability to feel deeply without losing herself. It reminds him of something he can't explain, the feeling of being alive, of being needed, of being seen. That's what emotional polarity does. It awakens desire and depth at the same time. It turns love into gravity. A man might not understand this consciously, but his body, his instincts, his emotions, they all respond to it. He starts to crave her presence, not out of addiction, but because she represents everything he can't find anywhere else. The peace he can't get from work, the softness he can't show his friends, the emotional reflection he can't see in himself. When these three triggers, emotional safety, respect-based attraction, and emotional polarity, align, something extraordinary happens. The man who once hesitated begins to pursue. The one who avoided commitment starts talking about the future. The one who once seemed distant becomes emotionally available without even trying. Because for the first time, he doesn't feel the need to protect himself. He doesn't feel pressured to be ready. He feels naturally drawn, not by logic, but by emotion. He feels that you are the woman who understands both his strength and his fragility. The woman who doesn't need to fight for love, because she embodies it. And here's the most powerful truth. When a woman learns to live from this place, balanced, grounded, emotionally confident, she no longer has to chase anyone. She becomes magnetic. Her energy speaks before her words do. She doesn't demand attention. She attracts devotion. Because real connection isn't about saying the right things. It's about creating the right feeling. And once a man feels that with you, he doesn't want to look anywhere else. When these invisible triggers aren't activated, love becomes a battlefield. You can give everything, your attention, your care, your loyalty, and still feel like you're losing him. That's because when a man doesn't feel these three things, his mind begins to justify pulling away, even if his heart doesn't want to. At first, it's subtle. He gets quieter. His replies take longer. He says he's busy, but you can feel that it's more than that. The emotional current that once pulled you together starts to fade, and you begin to question yourself. What did I do wrong? But the truth is, it's not about doing something wrong. It's about what hasn't been emotionally awakened. A man who doesn't feel emotional safety sees love as risk, not refuge. He keeps his guard up because every argument or misunderstanding reminds him of past wounds. So even if you mean no harm, he begins to associate the relationship with tension, not peace. And when peace disappears, so does his desire to stay close. A man who doesn't feel respect-based attraction loses his motivation. He may still care, but he stops trying. He feels unseen, unappreciated, and starts to shrink into himself. That's when he disconnects not only from you, but from his own sense of purpose in the relationship. You'll notice it in small ways. He stops planning things, stops opening up, stops showing initiative. Not because he doesn't love you, but because he no longer feels inspired to rise for the connection. And when emotional polarity fades, when the dynamic between masculine and feminine energy becomes unbalanced, attraction turns into friendship. The spark dies, not because there's no love, but because the chemistry that once pulled you toward each other has turned flat. He stops craving you. You stop feeling desired. The connection starts to feel heavy, like you're both trying to force something that used to flow. This is why understanding these emotional codes matters, because once they break, they don't easily repair themselves. A man who emotionally disconnects often doesn't know how to find his way back. He'll distract himself with work, friends, or silence. He'll convince himself he's just not ready. But what he's really missing is that sense of safety, admiration, and polarity that made him feel alive in the first place. And this is where many women give up. not realizing that they still have the power to shift the energy. Because the moment a woman stops chasing and starts embodying emotional confidence, something deep inside him notices. The tension between you shifts. The dynamic rebalances. He begins to miss her calmness, her presence, her energy. Not the words, not the gestures, but her essence. Men are wired to respond to contrast. When the world makes them feel pressured, a woman who brings peace becomes irresistible. When the world makes them feel insignificant, a woman who recognizes their effort becomes unforgettable. And when the world drains their energy, a woman who radiates softness and mystery becomes the one they can't replace. But here's the urgency. If these triggers remain asleep for too long, he rewires himself emotionally. He starts associating distance with comfort and closeness with stress. That's when he begins to seek relief instead of connection, scrolling, working late, spending time with people who require nothing from him emotionally. And once a man adjusts to emotional distance, rebuilding closeness becomes harder with every passing day. That's why timing matters. Because when you start activating these invisible triggers, not through words but through your energy, your tone, your calm, you interrupt that emotional pattern. You remind him what it feels like to be understood without judgment, respected without condition, and desired without demand. That's when his heart starts to turn back toward you. Not because you begged, not because you proved anything, but because he feels something that logic can't explain. And in that moment, he doesn't see you as someone trying to hold him. He sees you as the only person who truly knows how to make him feel free while being loved. That is the rarest feeling a man can ever have, and it's the only one that makes him stay, not out of obligation, but out of choice. When a man truly surrenders, it doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens quietly, almost invisibly. One day, he just realizes that being with you feels different. It feels lighter, calmer, real. He no longer needs to pretend, no longer feels the urge to run. He starts doing things he once avoided, sharing thoughts, making plans, showing affection without hesitation. That shift doesn't come from pressure, it comes from peace. And that's the beauty of mastering these invisible triggers. You stop trying to convince a man to love you, because you finally understand how love actually grows inside him. You stop chasing attention because your presence becomes enough. You stop fearing distance because you know how to bring him back, not through words but through energy. When you create emotional safety, you speak to his wounds. When you embody respect, you speak to his pride. When you maintain emotional polarity, you speak to his desire. And when all three come together, you speak directly to his soul. Most women never learn this. Not because they can't, but because they've been taught to love in a way that drains them. They're told to give endlessly, to prove their worth, to never let go. But the truth is, real power in love doesn't come from effort. It comes from alignment. A woman aligned with her own emotions becomes a mirror to a man's truth. She doesn't beg to be seen. She radiates a kind of confidence that makes him see her even in silence. She doesn't lose herself trying to be what he wants. She becomes the woman he never knew he needed. And that's when he falls. Not for the version of her that tries, but for the version that is. Because what makes a man stay is not perfection, it's authenticity. It's the way he feels when he's around you. Grounded, calm, inspired. It's realizing that no other woman gives him that same mix of peace and fire, softness and strength, mystery and safety. So stop asking, when will he finally open up? And start asking, how can I become the kind of woman he feels safe to open up to? Because that shift changes everything. It puts the power back in your hands. Not the power to control him, but the power to influence what his heart feels when he's near you. And once you learn to live from that place, balanced, emotionally grounded, and aware of your worth, you'll notice something incredible. Men treat you differently. They speak differently. They show up differently. Because they feel something around you that they can't explain. The rare combination of respect, safety, and attraction that makes them want to give more, love deeper, and stay longer. Remember this, the right man doesn't need to be convinced. He just needs to feel. And when he feels that with you, the surrender isn't forced, it's inevitable. So stay grounded in your peace. Stay connected to your feminine strength. And watch how the world, and the men in it, start responding to you in ways that words alone could never achieve. Because when you understand the three invisible triggers of a man's heart, you don't chase love anymore. You become it.